is the Glass Cannon Network.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Gen Con booth 2022. Glass Cannon live on the floor, on the show floor at Gen Con. This is incredible being back in this seat. I didn't realize how much I would miss it. We did it all day yesterday, and I was like, can't wait to get out of this box, go out, do the live show. I did it, and then all morning I was at another show at Gen Con, and I haven't been in the booth yet today. And now that I'm back in this seat, I gotta say, it feels very comfortable in here. The temperature is good. I was worried it was gonna be sweltering. It's not, it's great. And the whole vibe, people walking by, the Naish outside, literally constantly waving to fans. I mean, it's amazing. It is an incredible experience. If you are able to get to Gen Con, either in the next couple days or next year, because we're coming back. We have to. This has been too fun. You gotta come by and check out the booth. But what I'm here today to do, at least in this slot, is cannon fodder, baby. We are doing the FOD. It's Friday. It's about noon. So we're like, why don't we call it fodder? In fact, Michael, I gave you the wrong overlay, which was just stupid. I don't know if we can fix it, but see if you can find, there should be a cannon fodder one in there with the Pathfinder, but if you don't worry about it. The more important thing is have the Pathfinder on there, because this episode of Cannon Fodder is brought to you by our friends at Paizo. And that leads me to my guest today, who I am so lucky to have again on the FOD. This ain't his first rodeo. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the FOD, publisher at Paizo Inc., Erik Mona.
Hello.
My good buddy.
Hello, Joe, and hello, Naish. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. When I got here, Mona was already here.
Yeah. Welcome back to the booth. I'd like to be the first to welcome you to the Glass Cannon booth.
Thank you so much, Erik. You see, Erik's a real pro. When he's got an interview, he shows up 2.5 hours early, and you fit in a game.
Yeah, you just play a whole session.
You play a whole session.
It's a good way to get loose for the FOD.
Were you playing 5e?
I was playing Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition for the second time in my life.
Oh,
right
wow.
Here,
How'd you do
today.
rules-wise?
I think I did really well. Paula, the GM, the DM.
Oh, right.
Had all the character sheets all set up, so it was easy to look, and yeah, it was fun.
I'm so glad. I haven't had a chance to watch it, obviously, but I'm excited to see it. Word has been it was a blast.
It was really fun.
High praise for Paula, which I'm excited about.
She was great. The players were great. We were all playing bards. It was awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you and I were just talking before we went live that you haven't seen Time Watch yet, which is what a lot of the Naish would know Paula from. That experience that I had playing with her was great, but I've never seen her DM before. So I was excited to see it. Early on, so I met Erik, many years ago.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, one of the first things that we would like you to do is stop saying DM, because that is, what would you say?
It's a registered trademark.
It's a registered trademark is
Joe.
what it is. So, you can't play Pathfinder and say that all the time if your stuff's out in public. And I didn't know that. So I got trained out of it. And now I only say GM, and I never say DM. It's gotten out of my lexicon, as
It feels
they say.
kind of like you're getting away with something when you say it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to talk about a lot here today. I've got a chat window this time. So, hey, what's up, Naish? What is up, Sharky? Juicy, good to see you here. Carbon Fragments, It's a Trap. Come on, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. Leah D is here as well. And the Favre. What's up, Sergeant Favre? Good to see you back. Thank you guys for hanging out. I'm going to try to keep an eye on this. Try to at Glass Cannon some questions for Erik as we go. I want to try to do a little listener mail. We don't have our usual clean setup for that, but screw it. We're going to try it anyway, because I think you guys might have questions about what's coming for Paizo, and not just what's coming, but what's here. Ladies and gentlemen, I hold in my hand a book that I received from Paizo just 2 days before I left for Gen Con. The timing was perfect, and it is beautiful, and opening and reading the first page just sent me into geek heaven. It was so good. This is Dark Archive, the new book that just came out, right? This is the big Gen Con release.
Yeah, just came out, yep.
Tell me about Dark Archive. Let's just start in general. Content that's within the book. What are you presenting here in this one?
So Dark Archive is Pathfinder 2nd Edition's approach to the paranormal. So it's got a wide variety of topics. The cool thing about this, one of the things we've been doing for the last several books is trying to have fun with like the structure of the book, trying to have fun with the narration of the book. And so what we have in the Dark Archive is actually a collection of 8 dossiers. It's like a folio with all these secret files in them about different topics. Like
That's kind of what I was geeking out about. So
Yeah.
I didn't know the details of everything, but right at the first page, it grabs you because it says like what you're holding, you're not allowed to read, kind of thing.
Right,
You know, and I
it's
love that
forbidden
vibe.
knowledge. Yes,
Right.
yes. So there's there's cryptids and there's time travel stuff in there. There's cults.
I'm sorry. I'm a bad geek.
Yeah.
What is cryptids?
Cryptid is like a cryptozoological creature, like a Bigfoot or the Hodag or the Loch Ness monster. So the
okay.
short way of that is calling them cryptids. So
Okay,
that's,
interesting.
yeah,
Did you
yeah.
know that, Harry? Oh, he did. He did. Our producer knew it. I didn't know shit. All right, sorry.
Well,
Continue.
we learn things every day on the FOD, right? So there's all kinds of different chapters in here about temporal anomalies, curses and pacts, mindscapes, cults, mirrors, and imposters. That's a really cool one, the mirror section. Just different deviant abilities, like little spontaneous spell effects that you can manifest.
Okay, so this came up yesterday. I don't know how many of you watched the game. At the very end, this was like the big reveal at the end.
Okay.
Was deviant abilities.
Yeah.
I'm getting chills right now just thinking about it. It was so freaking cool. It was like, so you got this ability from some paranormal source, right? It
Yeah.
infused you. And then it has this mechanic called awakenings, which is like these other things that can happen or that you can do to unlock further powers within that ability. It's just so awesomely paranormal. I loved it.
Yeah, and it works across all the classes and stuff as well. So speaking of classes, there are also 2 brand new classes in this book.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Psychic and the Thaumaturge. The Psychic is, all flavors of different mind spellcasters. And then the Thaumaturge is actually a martial class who uses occult knowledge and different occult implements, like a magical lantern or something like that, to pierce the veil of reality. And they're all about, like, knowing how to defeat monsters from the lore in their heads. So they're the ones when you fight a werewolf that are like pulling out the wolf's bane and the silver weapons and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I'm playing a thaumaturge, and I'm like
Okay.
struggling with this. Like, I don't want to ask you rules questions.
Yes,
but like,
please don't.
Do you have to have a list of these little things for every creature, or is it presumed that you sort of like have little mundane things that you need on
Yeah, I
you?
think it's the latter.
Yeah, I think that I read that, but it's like, it's hard because you fight so many different kinds of
Right,
creatures.
right.
But I love it. I love that image of like you needing the hair of some beast, you know what I mean, to fight this cryptid, as we say. Those kind of things are really, I've always been very interested in that kind of stuff. I loved the occultist class. I said, to
Yeah.
me, it's kind of a 2E translation of the occultist. And yeah, I didn't realize. So we said, we're going to play 2 fighters because our 2 guests just chose fighters as their class. That's what they wanted to play. And we were like, well, we're going to do 2 classes from the new book.
Sure.
And I had no idea going in that the thaumaturge was going to be another fighter. I didn't realize that. Martial class, I should say.
Marshall, yeah.
But I'm looking at these things, and I'm like, oh, man, pump some stuff into strength. You can get right up there with a longsword and have all these paranormal abilities, but you're in there fighting. It's great.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
great.
it's cool.
So let me take a pause for a second. I want to dig more into this, but I want to ask you about Gen Con a little bit.
Yeah.
Tell me about, I think we've talked about this before, but I want you to remind me, Gen Con you must have such a long history on, right? I mean,
Yes.
does it go back to like before you were in the business?
Yes.
Okay.
My first Gen Con was 1995.
Oh.
And it
Oh,
was
gee.
one of my very first conventions, actually. It was back in Milwaukee when Gen Con was based there. Got involved with the RPGA network playing D&D. They had a big organized play campaign called Living City that I got really involved with. And then by 1997, I was like a volunteer coordinator for that, ran a bunch of scenarios. And so I have been either professionally or quasi-professionally like working Gen Con since 1997, and I've never missed it except for the year where it didn't happen. So I
So
was
you've
here.
been to every
I've been
one.
to every single one. Yeah.
So
yeah.
how has it changed?
Oh my gosh!
Obviously, it's gotten bigger, but
it's
like,
gotten way bigger.
but what did that do to the feeling? Is there a change to that?
Well, it's funny because the year I recently found okay, let me start over. one of the moments at Gen Con that I will never forget, that is just imprinted on me, is when we first released Pathfinder RPG in 2009, where we, for the first time, put out the core rulebook. And I had never experienced that level of just activity at our booth. There were hundreds and hundreds of people just swarming the booth. And in my mind's eye, it was like an ocean of people, you know?
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's what it feels like here at times, because there's waves of people moving past. They'll look in at you, they'll wave, they'll say hi. And then other times, because of something you don't know that might be down the way,
Right.
there's a backup. And then, like,
Yes.
suddenly the wave just becomes like this pool of people that stay there, and it gets all clogged up. It's really interesting.
So at that moment, on that year, the Paizo booth was that kind of locus of people, and everyone was zooming in on there, trying to give us money, trying to get the whole line of products and everything. And it happened again with Starfinder. It happened again with It happened with the Pathfinder adventure card game as well, and then it happened with Pathfinder Second Edition. So I've been through a number of different iterations of like releasing a big product at the show. But the funny thing, Joe, is I recently found online a video of 2009. And it was mostly of like the doors as they opened on the first day right outside the Paizo booth.
Yeah.
And it was like one door, and it was like person comes in, couple people come in, another person comes in.
Oh my
and we eventually, it all built up and it was a swarm. But nowadays, it's like 10 doors, and they all open at once in this literal
Massive
tsunami.
people. Well, what I didn't know until this one, this is obviously the first one. I see some guys are writing some great questions here, and there was one in there about how we got this booth started, right? Like, how far back does it go? It's several months, and we were still one of the last booths, as you can probably tell. They just jammed us into a corner where they weren't selling space previously. They let us get in here at the last minute, and this is the first I've ever been an exhibitor at any con, right? It's fascinating to see that this con that I thought started at 10 a.m. on Thursday starts Monday. Like,
Oh my
the
God.
industry
Yeah.
is all flying in Monday.
Right.
Everybody's working in here and building, and you're with a bunch of gaming people.
Yeah.
And they're all fans. Like, they're only doing this because they love gaming, and at one point maybe they were just walking around as a customer at Gen Con, right? And now they're exhibitors. But so you're trying out games, you're buying product before anything's open.
Yeah.
And so this place is crowded at 8 in the morning.
Right. And the thing is, you do it year after year after year, and these people become your friends too. You know,
Yeah.
it's like the same people kind of
It's
roughly
like going
have
to
the
camp
same.
for a
Yeah,
week.
and it's nice, and it's also, you know, for the industry people, you know, that Tuesday night, even the Wednesday night, like that's before the calm before the storm.
Yes.
So once the show starts, a lot of us are in, you know, business meetings for dinners, and you're doing shows and things.
Yes.
And it's really nice to have like a night before the show where you can just hang out
Yes.
and not worry about being late, not even really worry necessarily about having to wake up at the crack of dawn the next morning. You know, it's nice.
That's awesome. Sorry, I got off topic.
Yeah.
Eric and I do that so easily. Let's get back on point. Did we talk about the psychic? I don't think that we did.
No, we didn't too much.
I can tell you one thing about the psychic. Then
Right.
I want to have you weigh in on the actual
Cool.
class.
Yeah.
Skid loves the psychic.
Awesome.
He started playing it yesterday, and we joked on stream. You know, Skid.
Yeah.
He doesn't pull any punches. He has
Right,
no
right.
qualm saying if he's not into something.
Yeah.
And he could not stop saying, like, this class is so freaking cool. Like, he
Yeah.
wanted to play it so bad. Tell me about it. And
Well,
how-
the
yeah.
psychic, you know, first appeared in Occult Adventures for First Edition, which
Yep.
was a book I was very, very involved with, the outlining and getting in, you know, just trying to make sure that it had a certain authenticity to it. But it also was coming from a time in Paizo where we were putting out 4 classes a book, 6 classes a book. And I've played the psychic. You know, I'm kind of interested in that type of subject matter in general, so the idea of playing a psychic is kind of fun. And I didn't always have that much fun with the class in First Edition. It was a little.
I never played it.
It was a little wonky.
I think I read some reviews to that nature, which is kind of why I shied away
It's a
from
little
it.
techy, and and I felt underpowered. I bet if you really studied it and knew how to get the most out of it, someone out there saying, "Oh, you fool, Mona! It's the most powerful class in the game."
Right.
But it certainly wasn't in my hands. Lots of role-playing stuff, but just not quite. It didn't quite scratch the itch we wanted. So we wanted to go back in and really just beef it up, make it a lot more, I think, kind of fun. And there's just a lot more neat things you can do now as a psychic that weren't really on the table with first edition. So whereas Thaumaturge is approaching some of the same conceptual ground as the occultist, but is actually its own class, you can see that lineage. This is an evolution of the psychic from first edition.
I consider you to be one of the foremost scholars in my life on esoterica, right?
Thank you.
On esoteric knowledge and this whole human experience that I don't know really when it began, but like this kind of, I don't know how to even describe it, right? Except to say esoteric knowledge, cults, these kind of things that have happened in human history. These are things that you've studied. Can you talk to me as a dummy, like I am, in this area? Like, there's Pathfinder is a fantasy universe. There's magic. There is all this other stuff, right? That dragons and monsters and et cetera, et cetera. What is the difference, right, between writing a book that's about magic and about all this supernatural stuff versus something that's paranormal, you know, or esoteric, dark archive-y kind of stuff? What's the difference in tone of your approach to it when you're writing for a fantasy world already?
Well, you know, I tend to think of there's the difference, you know, the word occult. It you know, it's tied in with like occlusion or occluded view. It's hidden. It's what occult means, hidden.
Ah, okay.
And so
never knew that.
So the in a world where there's dragons and elves and treants and stuff like that, I tend to think of that as part of the normal world. You know, albeit it's
right. People know about it.
Yeah, exactly.
People are like,
what's
dragons were made up.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
yeah.
You know, they all have the lore. They've heard about it. Their grandfather saw it. It destroyed the village 30 years ago.
Right.
Like, dragons are real. You know, there's no question. But even within that world, there are things that are unknown. There are things that lie beyond the surface. There are things that are intentionally obfuscated or hidden. You know, and that's sort of the main difference for me.
That is such a good answer.
And then rules-wise,
that explains it to me perfectly.
we have, you know, like arcane is your sort of traditional magic stuff. You have primal, which is like druidic nature magic, and then you have, you know, divine, which is clerics and things. But then you have occult, which is the knowledge and things that come from lore and the hidden and stuff along that nature.
That's great. I think I'm going to absorb some of that. I think I might bring that out a little more, at least try to, in Atticus, because he is, I've always considered him kind of an occulty caster. Even though his approach is arcane, he has a lot of occult training, and he's, you know, it's a very occult campaign, Strange Aeon, so it's like a lot of hidden stuff.
For real.
I definitely have to dig in that a little more. Okay.
Yes.
Moving on, you brought another book.
I did.
That is gorgeous. Is this out? Is this available?
No.
Oh.
There are 2 copies of this book in North America. Actually, that's not true. Now they're all in the Paizo warehouse. So there's lots of them at Paizo. But the ones we have here are the printer samples. And this is the Kingmaker Adventure Path for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. This is like 600 pages long. Yeah, get a heft of that. It is a beast.
I mean, come on.
Every sense of the word. Kingmaker was probably the most popular adventure path we ever did for first edition. The idea behind it is you carve a kingdom out of the wilderness, and then you become the ruler of your own river kingdom, and you have to deal with, you know, building up your kingdom and the threats that attack you and expanding your land and things. And it's a very exploration. You know, we're going into this part of the map. What do we encounter? Adventure path. And recently, over the last couple of years, that was adapted into a computer game by our partners at Owlcat Games.
Yes.
And they did a fantastic job taking the original 6 Pathfinder First Edition adventures, fleshing it out, adding a whole companion system, adding a ton of new content. And so we always knew we wanted to bring Kingmaker out for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. And once we had this awesome sort of palette to paint from of these new additions that Owlcat had added, we knew like that's where the new stuff's going to come from. So this has got like the equivalent, I'd say, like 2 or 3 full Pathfinder Adventure Path volumes of brand new material that has never been in the tabletop game. And we went through this extensively. We had help with it from the folks at Legendary Games. James Jacobs, our creative director, the original mind behind Kingmaker, got to go in again and tighten it up. I mean, this is like our most important campaign in some ways. and given more attention than anything we've ever done. And so we crowdfunded it a couple of years ago on Game on Tabletop. Like a lot of crowdfunding projects, it just ballooned in scope. We thought we were like, yeah, we know how to make books, but I mean, the stack of products that come with this thing is actually like this tall. You can watch my keynote on the Paizo YouTube channel that I just did yesterday, and I'll show you pretty much the whole pile. But even that's missing, the special edition slipcase and the, a couple of extra flip mat packs. And there's really 4 books that are the most important parts of this project. And that's, of course, the campaign book, which is 600 pages. And then we also have a companion guide that's 128 pages, and that takes all those companions from the video game and puts them into tabletop in a way that kind of works like a video game does, where it's like every few levels they bring a new problem to you, and they have side missions with maps and everything. And they also have stuff that they can, like, they have feats that you can only learn from them, and they have like gear that you might only be able to access once you've gained their trust. And it's such a cool, like, I've been in this business a while. I've seen a lot of like monster books, adventures. I've not really seen a book like this before. So one of the things that I was struck by when I was looking through it for the final approvals and stuff is like, this book works not only with Kingmaker, but you could add these companions to pretty much any adventure path or campaign. So I think that's a book format that I'm really intrigued by, and that I'm really eager to see how people use it, not just for this campaign, but for others as well. And then when we're doing the crowdfunding, we knew, okay, so we actually did the crowdfunding before we launched 2nd edition Pathfinder. So we're like, well, there's a lot of people who don't know if they want to play 2E yet. There's a lot of people who are still playing 1st edition. And we know there's a lot of people playing 5e as well. So we thought, what if, in addition to this big 600-page monster, we created a couple of books that are like this? And this is our 5e bestiary.
I saw the 5e
Kingmaker.
on top over there. I was like, what is
that? Yeah, it is a new world, And so what we know is that there's a lot of players who have heard about Pathfinder Adventure Paths, have heard about the quality of campaigns that we put out, but they're players. Their friends play a different game, or they're gonna not. They don't want to play 2E. Okay,
right.
So let's get them an opportunity to play this as well. So we did a 1st edition version, and then we did Paizo's first ever 5e book. I just got off a couple-hour game of 5e, so I'm a full-on 5e expert now. I played it twice. But we do have 5e fans and players on our staff, and we work with freelancers. And so this thing, you can open up right next to the book, and it's alphabetical, every stat block in the entire book. So you, instead of going, okay, so here's, that's a hard name to pronounce, but here's this monster, and then you just flip it open to the same page here, and there it is, and you got it in your preferred game system. There's some advice on how to run the companions and some of the non-stat block stuff in 5e and also in 1e as well.
Yeah, because I was going to ask about, like, there's usually set DCs and stuff for exploration mode, right?
Yeah, there's advice and things in there in here that it is going to be like a cheat code. It's not fully integrated, so you will have to do a little bit of extrapolation here and there and kind of make up a couple of things on the fly. But the stat blocks are the hardest part. Those are all taken care of. And if what you want is an all-in-one, fully integrated 5th edition version of a Pathfinder Adventure Path, well, in March 2023, we're going to be putting out Abomination Vaults for 5e, and that's all going to be in one book. So you don't have to jump between books. You just got it all in one shot.
So that's going to be... I knew that was coming. That's going to be the first one that's fully 5e.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. That's awesome. All these things are obviously not out yet. Dark Archive is. These things are available, Dark Archive online, I presume, but also available down at the Paizo booth. The Paizo booth is the first thing you see. You're our neighbors down here at the end of the aisle. Booth 203. When you walk into row 200, it's like the main entrance here on South Capitol of Gen Con. You walk in, and it's just this gorgeous Paizo. I want that room in here to make this room a little bit bigger. It's an incredible booth. And you said to me just offhand yesterday, we were chatting, and you were like, this is a different booth than we've ever done. It's a brand
new booth.
And everything in there is new.
Everything is new. We've got new... you can come and play demos at the booth for the first time in about 8 years. We've got actual...
How many tables?
Just one. It's just like a walk up and play with one of our editors, our developers. I might even sneak in there and run some games. So it's just a quick walk up. We've got a huge elaborate terrain set up with a giant tower. It really is like the first couple of encounters of Abomination Vaults. Is what we're running.
Cool.
So yeah, a lot of people still haven't had a chance to play 2E. So it's like, come on, sit down. It's easy. easy way to do it. We also, of course, upstairs at Sagamore Ballroom have Pathfinder and Starfinder Society games going the whole con, every slot, and those are
Isn't there like
they're very popular,
tables
but
up
yeah,
there or
there's a
something?
lot of tables. It's huge, but we got room, so come on up and we'll fit you into a game or a quick demo or whatever. We're also you can check out a copy of our new party game, Goblin Firework Fight, which is a really fun sort of
firework
steal from your fellow goblins. A really fun, about 15-20 minute party game, and yeah, we're just firing on all cylinders. This stuff. Kingmaker is in the warehouse at Paizo now. It has cleared the customs hold, or at least the first half of the shipment, which includes everything. So
including
there's
the
half
drugs
of
that are hidden
everything.
inside
No,
the
there's
book?
no. I'd say there's no drugs. There might be some drugs in here, but they're imaginary drugs. They're not. There's not like a hollowed out page or anything like that. No, but so we finally got that. So that means that we're going to be fulfilling to our Game on Tabletop backers throughout September, right after we get back from this show, and then in October 26th is when we're expecting all this Kingmaker stuff to be in stores. So it's finally here after a couple of years of hard work.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm proud of you.
Well, I'm just happy to be done.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
I can see and I mean that very seriously. Just looking at this thing, if you're holding it, you would understand what I mean.
Yeah.
It is a monster. Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to get a
The biggest
shot
adventure we have ever published.
because we don't have a digital. Yeah. Look at how gorgeous. I'm going to do it just like the image. There you go. So you can kind of see the heft. Yeah, we're getting some thumbs up from outside. People are like, hell yeah. Kingmaker. It's gorgeous, Eric. Congratulations.
Brand new cover. Awesome.
Yeah, brand new cover. Okay, so what I wanted to ask is, this is here in the warehouse. Where am I
Yes.
looking? / coming out. Am I
Coming
in the
out.
right camp?
Yep.
/ coming out. Dark Archive is out.
Yep.
Get it. Get that paranormal into your Galarian.
Yeah.
Or into your home game, however you see it. Can I ask you, and you can say no,
Okay.
what's not here and not ready and not at the warehouse, but is coming? Like, what's
Okay.
the next
So
thing?
there, let's see. We've got all kinds of stuff coming.
Okay.
We are about to release a Starfinder book called Interstellar Species. It does a deep dive on 25 different big species in Starfinder.
Cool.
So instead of the, you've played it, instead of the like paragraph in the Alien Archive, it's like,
Yes.
here's how to play this thing. It's like multi-pages of their lore and ways to immerse
So it's
yourself
ones
into
from
that.
before, but more,
Yeah,
more
25 of the
detail.
most popular ones. Yep,
Okay.
and then a couple from Pathfinder as well. So the Kobold is in there, for example.
Oh, cool.
So that's cool. To get the whole lay of the land, you really want to watch the keynote that I did, where I talked like so fast it seemed like a Micro Machines commercial from the 80s. And I went through literally 144 slides showing off different pieces of art from all this stuff.
And where can people find it? It's on your YouTube?
It's on our YouTube, Paizo's YouTube, and it was on the official Paizo Twitch channel too. I'm sure it's still archived there as a video on demand or something. So, and it will be we'll be pushing it a lot after the show as well. But that gives you the whole rundown. But I did want to hit one really important announcement that we made at the end of that, which is that we announced what next year's hardcover book for Pathfinder is going to be here at this show.
Okay.
So it is going to be called Rage of Elements, and it's going to be all about elemental power. And so it will feature stuff about the actual elements, about spells and monsters that are tied not just to earth, air, fire, and water, but we're also adding the plane of wood, and we're adding the plane of metal, which ties in some other sort of cosmologies, like some of the Asian cosmologies and things. They consider those elements, so we're like, cool, let's throw that in. And then the coolest part about it is we are introducing a new class in that book. And when I say a new class, it's actually an old class, and it is actually, I think
I know what you're gonna
probably
say.
the most popular old class that we have not yet done for second edition, and that is the kineticist.
Yep.
So
the Grant Berger special. He had a kineticist that was so dominant. It was wild.
Grant's got a knack for that.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. So we, the cool thing about that is the playtest version of that class drops on Monday. So the day
Monday.
after Gen Con. Yep. Go to Paizo.com.
I thought you said it was next. Oh, the book comes out in a year.
The book comes out in a year, but the
But you're
playtest
playtesting?
starts on Monday. So you can go do a free download. It's got the full class. It's got earth, air, fire, and water. We're going to tighten up the class with the kind of known elements before we extrapolate into the new ones. And we're asking people to download it, give us their feedback. We've got some feedback surveys that'll be loaded into that. We've got some discussion forums on Paizo.com. Every class that we've ever done for Pathfinder has benefited greatly from a public playtest. And so we really appreciate that people knock it through its paces, tell us what they like, tell us what they don't like, and then we do our best to make it as cool as we possibly can in the final book. And this playtest version of the class will also be playable in Pathfinder Society Organized Play as well. So if you want to really test it out for a while, you can play it with the normal scenarios and stuff like that starting on Monday.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I encourage you guys, those of you that want to try it out, get out there and try it and give some feedback. I know
Please, yeah.
It's a little extra work. I know, I get it, but it's just, it can help so much to
So
get
helpful.
that information, that feedback to help tweak the class. I remember when we first, you and I and Jason first got together in, I think it was in New York City, to
Yeah.
see the first drafts of 2E.
Yeah.
The first manuscript of 2E, when we were preparing that little campaign we did in the old studio.
Right.
You had that play test already, ran it for, what, 6 months or a year almost?
For a while, yeah.
The play test, and you changed a lot.
A lot.
Based on that.
A lot.
So it's important.
Yeah, and in fact, it's interesting. A lot of folks who checked out the playtest version of Second Edition got the version of the game where we're sort of intentionally pushing far away and throwing in some stuff that maybe we didn't know how it would go over. And so it literally was a playtest. And there are people who've then come to the finished version of Second Edition and be like, well, I didn't like the playtest, but this is awesome. And it's kind of like, well, yeah, that's the point.
That's the point.
So.
The Googly Ghost says, I've always loved Paizo, but now that we actually get to know the people behind Pathfinder, it makes Paizo even better.
Oh, well, thank you.
That's pretty cool. That's a compliment
Yeah.
for you, buddy. So,
And I'm just a publisher. There's 70 other people who work on this stuff.
I thought you wrote this and edited it.
No.
And did the illustration.
No, I did help a little on the editing, but for the most part, our editor Leo Glass just really nailed it. Like I said before, James Jacobs. On the Paizo channel all weekend long, if you dare switch away from Glass Cannon, or
you can do it on Monday.
Yeah, go watch the videos archived on YouTube on Monday while you're downloading the playtest. Our staff, about half of them are here at the show, and about half of them are still back at the office. And those folks are like doing panels all the time, as if they were here.
Oh, cool.
So on official Paizo Twitch channel, they're all day long, the whole show. We're doing panels.
Twitch.tv/official Paizo.
Yeah.
Send in your questions for Erik. Come on. I think it's working. Let's do question time. Let's do
Yeah.
listener mail remote on the road in the booth. I wish I had Nick Lowe here live. I mean, he would love it
wouldn't
so
that be
much.
fun?
He'd bring a guitar. He would stand up. He'd be like, all right, Harry, can you give me a standing shot? I want to play for you. I'm also seeing comments on here about my voice, which
It's as good as it's going to get for there. It's
I'm finding out that this is a thing not just for performers.
it's
also
a thing
like
for everybody.
all exhibitors talk so much.
This room is really loud. I mean, that is one thing that's worth keeping in mind. When you're in here all day, you're actually, this sound barrier
When he
really
says this
helps.
room, he means like
I mean
the giant
convention,
floor, the whole
the
floor.
Indiana Convention Center. It's a great venue for the show, but when you are talking and there's thousands of other people in the same room talking, you could lose your voice by the end. So you got to be careful.
I went into this with a plan to be smart, and it didn't work out last night. I had too much fun. The session was too wild. And I said in that first show, I was like, you can't scream, Joe, the way you normally do.
Right.
You can't, natural 20. But I did.
Yeah.
And now my voice is like this.
Yes.
All right. At the Glass Cannon with your questions for Erik. Try to keep it Erik focused if you don't mind, please. I'm not going to take up his time answering stuff about my shows. But I don't know. We might get a thing or two in here. Well, here's an in-betweener, okay? I like this. From Sizzle asks, Erik.
Yes.
What region of Galarian would you like to see turned into an AP next? Any plans to visit more of the Elder Mythos? And then they say with a comment, Age of Worms and Strange Aeons are classics in my opinion.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, the Mythos, there's a lot of fans of the Mythos in our stuff, particularly James Jacobs, so I think the Adventure Path's going to have some of that. I think the new Gatewalkers Adventure Path is one to look at. It's going to explore some of those themes. That starts in January 2023 and really is the paranormal adventure path that'll tie in really well with Dark Archive. My favorite place, let's see. For a long time, I would have said I wanted to get into the impossible lands of Nex and Geb. Bloodlords, which is running right now, is a 6-volume adventure path set in the undead kingdom of Geb, so that scratches that necrotic itch for me a little bit. I think I'm eager to see us move. I'm always going to be eager to see us like hit some of the classics, anything in like Cheliax or Varisia, but we've done a lot of that in first edition. So I'm excited to see what happens when we start expanding the map a little bit. I want to know what's south of Nex. or Geb. I want to know like what southern Garund looks like. I want to know what Casmaron looks like to the east. I want to know what Arcadia looks like. That's our sort of new world continent on the other side of Aslant, to the west of Avestan and
Lots
Garund.
of cool places.
So yeah, the idea is lots of really great places, and I'm excited about all of it. I mean, I made up the setting. I love it all, or I co-made up the setting, so I've got a lot of favorites.
Cthulhu asks, what conditioner does Erik use in his hair? It is beautiful.
I use the Omni Severin brand hotel conditioner.
Well, Omni's
but
a
thank
good
you very
hotel.
much. I think that my hair, which is obviously pandemic byblow, but I'm keeping it because like a lot of guys my age cannot have hair like this, so I'm going to ride it as long as the minute it turns gray, I'm cutting it all. But for now, I'm living with it. And the humidity of Indiana is the secret. Honestly, that's
It's really giving it that body.
It really does.
On the topic, Who Let the Moon says, Erik, do you always wear your hair down, or do you ever put it up in a ponytail or a sweet man bun?
Okay, no man bun whatsoever. I prefer to wear it down nowadays. If I'm like when I was building the booth, I put on a ponytail, but yeah, I wore a ponytail for a long time in college, like before I went back to having short hair, like the remnants of my heavy metal, high school hair and stuff. And
school hair.
Yeah, the problem with the ponytail. All right, let's get into this. The problem with the ponytail is it pulls all of your hair back, and you don't have any of that body that I think is important, especially if you got a big round Charlie Brown head. Right. It's not that great.
It shows off the head a little bit more than some of us may want.
On the head.
Okay, Tech and Mac asks, have you had time to check out many new games? If so, any favorites or ones you're most excited to try? I'll let you think for a second, and I'll say that I got to try some Chaosium games yesterday during a demo. I have never played. I barely even heard of 7th Sea. Do you know 7th Sea?
Oh, I do.
Sea?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was neat.
That's some swashbuckling fun.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. It's like, obviously the setting was swashbuckling, but I didn't really know what swashbuckling fun meant.
Right, right.
And the game really captures that feeling, that vibe,
cool.
that energy. It's kind of a PG movie, PG-13 movie that you're playing out in action scenes, and it's so fun. I had a really good time.
I scheduled 2 hours to walk around the hall here yesterday, so I didn't have a meeting or anything. I could just explore, and there have been years where I haven't had 20 minutes on the hall floor before, so this was exciting for me. And I was scoping out some stuff. I found some things that aren't RPGs, but that I was pretty excited about. My buddies over at Goodman Games do a sort of modern-day sword and sorcery fiction pulp magazine called Tales from the Magician's Skull, and they've got 8 of those out. So I just bought that whole line, because I'd got the first one a year ago. But there's some really great authors in there, and I really like what they're doing to kind of keep that tradition alive.
Yeah.
So I got a bunch of those.
That's cool.
I bought. Every year I say I'm not going to buy more miniatures here at Gen Con, and then every year I fail that will save like spectacularly. So a couple of things. I've got some. Well, you might know that there are. I like to play characters that are oftentimes kind of bombastic. I like fops. I would say fops are like a very good demographic of Erik's characters.
Speaking of which, Sharky and I think Farva might ask, they want to know how Craig the Goblin is doing.
Craig the Goblin is in my keynote address. Right over my shoulder as in his power place. And he gives me the energy I need to power through the 144 pages of PowerPoint.
Amazing. So I'm sorry, back to the bombastic
So two things, and this one is fine. It's a game called Carnival. I've never played the game, but it's got this sort of like 1600s Venetian style to it. So lots of guys in like ruffs and frilly collars and things. So I was a sucker for that, and I bought a handful of those figures, and I'm just like, I want to make that character and that character and that character.
That's That's such a good way to do it, and I realize this every time I go to get a mini for a character I've made. I'm like, I should have gotten the mini first.
Yeah, I really like doing that.
And then worked
actually.
back to the character because I can never quite find exactly what I want.
The other one quick thing too,
Yeah.
and I don't know their names, so this is a really bad push, but two booths over, there's a new skirmish game that's based on pre-Columbian America. And so there are like Inca, Aztec, and Mayan battle figures, like priests and leopard skin warriors and magicians and,
that's so cool.
and stuff like that. And some Native American tribe type stuff too. And they have Native people working on the game. And so I thought that was a really interesting thing. And so I bought a bunch of those as well. And I will never probably paint them, but...
Good question. I'm trying to think because I'm on the spot here, and I'm glad I got that 7C demo, but I feel like I saw something or walked by something I really wanted to try, but I don't remember. I am excited to playtest the Kineticist class. I'll tell you that.
A new game today.
Oh, you did?
Well, a game I'd only played once before. It's called Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition.
Yeah, it was only your second
made
time.
Made by a little outfit out of Washington State. I think they need all the help they could get. So
It's struggling
highly
in the
recommend
studio.
people check that game out.
Let's rapid fire, okay? We're at the
Yeah.
end of the show
Yeah.
here. We're running out of time. Eric, is Paizo planning more 5e adventures outside of Abomination Vaults in the future?
Oh, probably. We haven't announced anything yet, and we haven't even published anything yet. So, it does seem like there's a very large audience for that, and people do seem quite excited about Kingmaker and Abomination Vaults. And if that turns out to be the case, then yeah, sure, we'll do more. I mean, our main business is going to be Pathfinder, though. I mean, we're not a third-party publisher for D&D.
It's a trap. Are there any current plans to branch out into any non-Pathfinder or Starfinder-based games?
Well, I did mention, I mean, this is probably not the spirit in which the question was intended, but I did just mention the Goblin Firework Fight party game, so we are exploring some other stuff like that. I do think we might, right now it does take a ton of effort and work to do Pathfinder and Starfinder, and so I wouldn't anticipate that we would do something else that's like equal in scope to that, because each one of those kind of requires a whole company to run. So we might dabble here and there, but nothing really to announce.
Eric, can you tell us a little bit? Oh, God, this is awful.
Oh, no.
I know the answer.
Okay, good.
Eric, can you tell us a little bit about how writing Dead God's Hand was?
The module that isn't finished. It's been arduous, honestly. It's been really difficult. It was an adventure that we announced with the slate of release products for second edition, and I wrote most of it, and then had to kind of come in and help out, and by my own. I mean, the Absalom book that we just published, I kind of took on and added about 100 pages of content to, and it became sort of like a self-destructive mania to do that, I think, in some ways, and that knocked me off of the Dead God's Hand. And then in the process of doing that book, we got some, I think, really well thought out feedback about one of the things that we did in the beginning of the setting is we wanted to have evil characters that you could really fight, and we thought, well, what are the sort of prototypical RPG evil characters that we have, and slavers were one of those. And so the old Against the Slave Lords adventure path from D&D and stuff, and so we wanted to have that a niche for that in our setting. But one of the things that you asked how Gen Con has changed since when I started coming, how the whole industry has changed is that it's a much more diverse place. There are way more women and people of color at this show, in the industry in general. I think we all unambiguously think that's a good thing, but one of the interesting things about that is those folks don't always have exactly the same perspective as you might. And so something that for you is like, oh, well, that's just a bad guy you fight in an old D&D module. Well, when you talk about slavery and stuff, it really makes a lot of people very uncomfortable. And they shared that with us. And after thinking about it, and this is right in the aftermath of Absalom, which still touched on some of those themes, it's like, yeah, I get it. And we really don't need to focus on those themes. There's so many other types of evil. We can just pick our battles.
There's plenty of evil to go around.
We can do lots of different things. And so one of the challenges that then brought to Dead God's Hand is you start the adventure captives of a Duergar slaver gang. And I'm like, okay, we need to probably refocus this a little bit. And so I'll get back to it, but it's just kind of been on the back burner, and we're not going to reschedule it until it's done.
Thank you for your insight there.
Yeah.
That was really interesting to see how the behind the scenes stuff goes when those kind of projects
It's
get delayed.
It's a killer module. We will put it
reasons.
out, but it's just I got to fix it.
All right, I want to do two real fast. One from Shadowfax96. Eric, what is your favorite convenience accessory for tabletop gaming?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Good
My
question.
favorite convenience accessory. It's not going to be a GM screen. I don't like GM screens. I like. There's an intimacy, I think, that's interfered with the screen. So although I like to have the charts handy, I don't really like that. I'll tell you. I mean, this is an oldie but a goodie, and it's going to soon be a newie. Janelle Jakeways in the 80s did a book called Central Casting Heroes of Legend that was all like charts that you rolled on to generate your character's background. So it's like, I have three sisters, and one of them's a demon, and whatever. And it was such an innovative system. And for me as an early game master, a lot of my friends weren't as into it as, you asked me to come up with a character, and I'm like, oh, here's an 8-page thing. Right. A lot of people are just like, his name is Bob, and so to be able to give them that, and all of a sudden they're starting to think about it, and then to hook into different parts of their backgrounds that then you as a GM can feed off of. It's just a better way to immerse them into the world. And Janelle's working on a new edition of that game, Central Casting, that I think that's my favorite.
Awesome.
It'll be nice to use a new version and not like the one that's worth $150 from the 80s that I don't want to damage.
Last question from Zizzy Loves Me. Eric just did an all-bard session.
I did, yeah.
What roles of a rock band would you assign the founders of the GCN with guest vocalist Erik Mona?
God. Oh, I get to be the vocalist. Oh, geez. Okay,
or
see.
You can change your role.
Let me think this through.
It was so loud.
I think I'm going to say Grant should be on drums.
Yeah.
Because he's powerful.
That is correct.
And he's kind of the man behind the scenes, keeping it all
sweating.
Together. Right. Just like steady as a rock, I feel like Troy is going to be the lead guitarist because he's going to stand in front of whoever else wants to be the lead guitarist probably too, and just milk it in from the crowd, right?
Exactly.
I think by that token then I'm going to say you are the rhythm guitarist, but, and this is important, it's a really good band. So you guys swap lead duty every once in a while. So you're not going to not do a solo. You'll do solos and
every
stuff
once
too.
in a while. We after a song, everyone's going nuts.
Right.
Pull the guitar off, set it down on a rack of 20 different guitars that I use.
Right.
Then pull out the
double-headed guitar.
Wouldn't it be so awesome to be a rock star?
It would be. And so while Troy's up in front lighting the thing on fire and castigating the audience for not cheering enough or whatever, you're just cutting loose. And then Matthew is like right behind you.
Matthew on bass.
Matthew is on the bass. The coolest, most level-headed one of the whole group.
Sets
the tone, and he's got that sense of like. I'm stretching, but he's the playwright, right? He's got that sense of structure, and it's the bassist with the drums that brings the structure to the band. So I think I've got you all, right?
Nope, Skid.
Skid. Oh, shoot. Okay, so Skid. I said drummer, bassist. Skid is you made me he'd be the vocalist, I think. But if you made me the vocalist, then Skid is the other vocalist. This band has two vocalists.
Okay.
And
who sings the melody?
Feels like he has 100 vocalists because of all Skid's voices.
Bam.
So he brings a lot of different voices to play.
I think if I did it, I would just change one thing because you're wrong about one thing.
Okay.
You couldn't help this.
Okay.
Matthew is on keys.
Oh, I didn't even think
you can't
of
help
keys.
this, and the reason is because I have been friends with Matthew a long time. His favorite thing to do is air keys. He loves playing the keys when a song requires it.
I'm a big fan of the band Ween, and they have a very important keyboard element. I think by stretching the GCN band to include keyboards, we have just diversified the sound, and it's a much better, more interesting band than it was
more interesting
before.
band.
I love it.
Okay, we have run out of time. Thank you guys for the amazing questions. Thank you, Eric, for coming and hanging out with us. Thank you, you as a representative of Paizo.
Yeah.
Thank you, huge thank you to Paizo. Truly, when we had this idea for the booth, Eric and I were talking about it before we went live. He's looking around and he's like, this is a pretty impressive thing that you guys threw together. And the fact that it's all working is shocking. And I couldn't agree more, and it doesn't happen without Paizo. Paizo is our oldest partner in this business. You personally plucked us from obscurity, put us out there, and we greatly appreciate it. And when we put out the call, we have this ambitious idea. Who wants to help? Paizo was the first to answer that call and said, we'll be there. Let's play some games together. And they're supporting this booth. They're making this happen. So please continue to support Paizo and all the great work that they do in tabletop, especially in the content of the tabletop they make. It's the best stuff. It is the best stuff in terms of quality that you can find in the business. All right. I have to say some promos here for what's next. I'm going to get out of here and walk over to, I don't know where. I think I'm in the Indiana Convention Center for this one. It's the Busted Mufflers. That's right. We're back to playing some Blades, and we're doing it right here at 2 o'clock. That's going to be streamed on Gen Con, but we're going to host it, right, Michael? We're going to host that stream at 2 o'clock. So this stream is now going to shut off. It'll shut down for now. But don't go anywhere. Get a break. Go to the restroom. Have a sandwich at 2 o'clock. It's back. We are hosting our Blades in the Dark game. Then, from that game, I am running back here. Do you know about this? I'm running back here. Sirenscape is another one of our sponsors.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And they are supporting a Dread stream that we're going to do here that Matthew is running. Troy and I and Skid are all in it. I can't remember who the last person is. But anyway, it's going to be really fun. That's at 4:30, I believe. So hang out. We got great stuff coming all day. And then I guess tomorrow, in person only, Helium Comedy Club. If you're in town or around, you want to come out, there's still tickets available to the matinee tomorrow.
Which I think I'm in that one, right?
That's right.
Yes.
Oh my God, I completely forgot.
Yes.
Somebody asked. They were like,
Yes.
when are we going to see Tiny Murder Clown again?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Tune in for Busted Mufflers at 2 o'clock. Bye, everybody.
See ya.